I still wake up gasping in the middle of the night, my heart pounding, hearing his tiny, joyful voice calling out across the wind. "Mommy, look how high I can jump. I'm flying like a superhero." That bright, unstoppable giggle, the one that used to fill our home with light, still echoes in my ears like a ghost I can't let go. It breaks something inside me every single time because I know I will never hear it again in this lifetime. My name is Elena, and for 6 short but perfect years, I lived what I truly believed was a beautiful, loving life. I was a stay-at-home mother who found my greatest joy in the smallest, most ordinary moments. I loved waking up early to make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs for my son, brushing his soft, messy brown curls every morning while he squirmed and laughed, and reading him bedtime stories until his eyelids grew heavy and he fell asleep holding my hand. Our modest 2-story house on the quiet edge of town was filled with warmth, golden sunlight streaming through lace curtains, colorful crayon drawings taped all over the fridge, the sweet smell of fresh-baked cookies drifting from the kitchen, and the constant happy sound of little feet running across the wooden floors. My husband Mark and I had been married for 7 peaceful years. He worked as a financial advisor in the city, coming home every evening with a small bouquet of flowers or a thoughtful gift, kissing me gently on the forehead and whispering, "You make our house feel like heaven, Elena. I don't know what I would do without you." I believed every word with all my heart. He was the man who held me tightly when I felt scared or overwhelmed, who danced with me barefoot in the kitchen to our favorite old love songs, who carried our son Tommy on his shoulders for hours and called him my little champion, while making airplane sounds that sent Tommy into fits of laughter. Tommy was my entire universe. At just 6 years old, he had the softest, messiest brown curls that I loved running my fingers through, big sparkling hazel eyes full of endless wonder and curiosity, and the sweetest dimpled smile that could melt away any sadness in my day. He carried his favorite red backpack with him everywhere, the one decorated with smiling dinosaur patches that he had picked out himself. He dreamed big dreams of becoming an astronaut one day. Every night before bed, he would climb into my lap and say in his soft, excited voice, "Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to fly to the stars and bring one back just for you. A bright one that shines only in our house." His little hands were always warm and slightly sticky from candy or crayons, and he loved nothing more than holding both my hand and his daddy's at the same time, swinging between us like he was the happiest, safest boy in the whole world. That Saturday morning began like so many other happy family days we had shared. The sun was shining brightly, the sky was a clear, endless blue, and the air smelled fresh and salty from the ocean. Mark suggested we pack a picnic and drive to the beautiful cliffs overlooking the sea. "It'll be good for all of us, Elena," he said, leaning down to kiss my forehead in that familiar, tender way. "Tommy needs fresh air and space to run around and burn off some energy. It will make beautiful memories." I smiled warmly and agreed without a second thought. Why wouldn't I trust him completely? He was the devoted father who played airplane with Tommy for hours in the backyard, the man who promised me on our wedding day that he would always protect our family, no matter what. We packed a wicker basket with Tommy's favorite peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, fresh strawberries, apple slices, and his beloved juice boxes with the cartoon dinosaurs on them. The drive to the cliffs was filled with pure joy. Tommy sang silly made-up songs from the back seat at the top of his lungs, making us all laugh. Mark and I held hands across the center console, the radio playing soft music, everything feeling so right and so safe. When we finally arrived and stepped out of the car, the wildflowers were dancing gently in the breeze, and the vast ocean sparkled far below us like an endless blanket of blue diamonds catching the sunlight. Tommy was bursting with excitement. He skipped happily between us, his small fingers wrapped tightly around my left hand and Mark's right hand. I could feel the warmth of his little palm, the sticky sweetness from the candy he had eaten in the car. I remember squeezing Mark's hand softly and whispering with a full heart, "We really are the luckiest family in the world, aren't we? Look at him. Our perfect little boy." Mark turned to me with a gentle smile and replied quietly, "More than you'll ever know, my love. More than you'll ever know." The wind was gentle and warm at first, carrying the scent of salt and flowers. Tommy laughed loudly, his red backpack bouncing on his back as he pulled just a little ahead, wanting to get closer to the pretty wildflowers growing near the edge. I called out softly, my voice full of motherly concern. "Careful, baby. Stay close to us, okay? The edge is slippery." Mark smiled reassuringly and said, "He's fine, Elena. Let the little champion explore. I'm right here." But what I didn't know in that peaceful, sunlit moment was that this would be the very last time I would ever feel my son's warm, living hand in mine. What I didn't know was that the man walking beside me, the man I had loved, trusted, and built my entire life around, had already secretly made a dark, cold, and terrible choice, driven by greed and betrayal. A choice that would shatter our world into pieces so small they could never be fully put back together. In one single, heartbreaking instant, the wind shifted. Tommy took a few more excited steps toward the flowers, and my entire life came crashing down into darkness. Long, heavy, emotional pause. Voice cracks with raw pain. The scream that tore from my throat that day still lives deep inside my chest, waiting to escape every time I close my eyes. The hours and days that followed were a nightmare I still can't fully wake up from. Sirens wailed in the distance as Mark made the frantic call to the police, his voice shaking dramatically as he described what had happened. He told them Tommy had been running playfully near the unstable cliff edge, laughing and chasing the flowers, when he suddenly lost his balance on some loose rocks and fell before either of us could reach him in time. The sea was particularly rough that afternoon, with strong currents and high waves. Rescue teams searched desperately for days using boats and divers, but they never recovered my baby's little body. The official report called it a tragic, heartbreaking accident, something no parent should ever have to endure. Mark held me tightly in his arms as I collapsed onto the grassy clifftop, my body shaking uncontrollably, my screams echoing against the rocks until my voice became raw and completely gone. He rocked me back and forth, tears streaming down his face, repeating over and over in a broken whisper, "I tried, Elena. I swear on my life I tried to grab him. He was so fast. Just a second too late. I'm so sorry, my love." His tears felt so real, his voice cracked in all the right places with what sounded like pure, devastating heartbreak. The police officers and rescue workers offered their deepest condolences, patting Mark's shoulder and telling us how truly sorry they were for our unimaginable loss. For the first several weeks, I existed in a thick, suffocating fog of grief. The house that once rang with laughter now felt like a cold, empty tomb. Every single corner held a painful memory. Tommy's small blue shoes still sat by the front door where he had kicked them off. His latest crayon drawings, stick figure families with big smiles, remained taped to the refrigerator. The half-eaten chocolate chip cookie he had left on his plate that morning sat untouched on the counter. I couldn't bring myself to throw anything away. I would spend hours sitting motionless in his small bedroom, surrounded by his scattered toys, books, and clothes, breathing in the slowly fading scent of his favorite strawberry shampoo mixed with the waxy smell of crayons. I clutched his beloved stuffed dinosaur, the one with the worn-out tail from so many hugs, tightly to my chest and whispered through endless silent tears, "Mommy is so sorry, my sweet, precious boy." I should have held your hand tighter that day. I should have never let go even for a second. Please forgive Mommy. Sleep completely abandoned me. I would lie awake in the dark for hours, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of that day in my mind. Food had no taste. I barely ate more than a few bites. I felt utterly shattered, completely broken and exposed in the deepest parts of my soul. The pain was so overwhelming and raw that it felt as if a large part of my own heart and soul had fallen into that cold, unforgiving sea along with my son. I questioned everything I had ever believed. Was our happy life ever real? How could something so beautiful turn into this nightmare? How could God or the universe allow this to happen to an innocent little boy who only wanted to see the flowers? But as the fog of initial shock slowly began to lift, small, unsettling cracks started to appear in the story Mark had told everyone, including me. One sleepless night, while Mark was taking a long shower, I quietly went into his home office and opened the bottom drawer of his desk. There, hidden beneath some old files, I found the life insurance documents. A policy worth $200,000 taken out specifically on Tommy's young life, signed and active only 3 weeks before our picnic at the cliffs. My hands trembled violently as I read every single word. The next morning, trying to keep my voice calm and steady, I asked him gently about it. He brushed it off smoothly, saying, "It's just a smart precaution, Elena, for our family's future protection in case anything ever happened to any of us. You know how much I love planning ahead for us." But his eyes refused to meet mine, and a cold, heavy feeling settled deep in my stomach. Then came the late-night phone calls that I began to notice more clearly. One evening, I woke up to the sound of his voice whispering urgently in the hallway outside our bedroom. "Sarah, just be patient a little longer. The insurance payout will come through any day now, and then we can finally leave all of this behind. We can start our real free life together. No more responsibilities weighing us down." Sarah, the attractive woman from his office who had attended several of our dinner parties. I had thought she was only a friendly colleague. I had even shared coffee and laughs with her in our living room, never suspecting anything. The full weight of the betrayal crashed over me like a violent wave, pulling me under. Over the following days, I gathered every bit of courage I had left and checked Mark's deleted messages on his laptop and phone. The words I read tore what remained of my heart into pieces. Detailed conversations about removing the child from the picture, about how the large insurance money would allow them to travel the world, buy a luxurious new house by the beach, and live happily without the constant burden and expense of raising a kid. They had been planning it carefully. They had coldly calculated and chosen money and their own selfish desires over the life of my innocent, trusting 6-year-old son. I felt completely destroyed in every possible way. The man I had loved so deeply, the man who had looked into my eyes and promised to cherish and protect our family forever, had secretly looked at our beautiful, laughing boy and decided his young life had a price tag of $200,000. The pain was suffocating, all-consuming. I cried until my body had no tears left to give. I questioned every single kiss we had shared, every "I love you" whispered in the dark, every family vacation, every bedtime story, and every promise he had ever made. How long had this darkness been hiding behind his smiles? How could I have been so blind to the monster living in my own home? In the darkest, most broken part of that endless grief, something quiet but powerful began to shift deep inside me. The fierce, unconditional love I had always carried for Tommy refused to die with him. It burned like a small, steady flame in the middle of the storm, slowly turning my shattered heart into something quieter, more determined, and stronger than I had ever known. I realized with painful clarity that I could not bring my precious baby back to life, but I could make sure the people who had taken him from me would never again live in peace or freedom. I made a silent vow to my son. I started to pretend with every ounce of strength I had left. I forced gentle smiles when Mark looked at me. I cooked his favorite meals again, roasted chicken with herbs the way he liked it. I let him hold me at night in our cold bed while he believed his terrible secret was still safe, and that I was simply the broken, grieving wife, slowly healing. But every smile, every touch, every kind word hid my growing inner strength. I began quietly and carefully collecting every piece of evidence I could find. Detailed bank records showing suspicious transfers, fully recovered deleted messages from the cloud, secret voice recordings of his phone calls made when he thought I was asleep, and more. The pain remained raw and heavy in my chest every single day, but now it had a clear, burning purpose. It fueled me forward instead of pulling me under. For 6 long, emotionally exhausting months, I continued playing the role of the slowly recovering wife with perfect care. Inside, I worked closely and secretly with a kind, experienced private investigator who took my case because he said the evil was too great to ignore. Together, over many late nights and careful meetings, we built a case so complete, so detailed, and so undeniable that no court or detective could look away. We uncovered financial trails leading directly to the insurance company. Dozens of recovered messages spelling out the plan in cold detail. Hidden camera footage of Mark and Sarah quietly celebrating their new beginning in a hotel room far from town. And even statements from coworkers who had overheard suspicious conversations about getting rid of the kid for the money. The day I finally walked into the police station carrying the thick, heavy folder filled with truth, my legs trembled beneath me, but my voice remained steady and clear. I looked the lead detective directly in the eyes and said with quiet strength, "My husband and his girlfriend planned and carried out the death of my 6-year-old son by pushing him off that cliff for $200,000 in insurance money. Here is every single piece of proof you need to make sure they never hurt another child or another family again." Mark was arrested early the next morning at his office building, right in front of his shocked colleagues and bosses. The moment the cold handcuffs clicked tightly around his wrists, his face drained of all color. He looked across the room at me with pure, raw terror in his eyes, the same eyes that had once looked at me with what I thought was love. In that instant, he finally understood that the woman he believed he had completely broken and destroyed had quietly gathered her pieces and become his greatest and final nightmare. Sarah was arrested later that same day at the airport as she tried to board a flight out of the country, carrying a suitcase full of new clothes and dreams of a luxurious, guilt-free life. The courtroom was filled with a heavy, respectful silence when our case was finally heard over several emotional days. I stood tall in front of the judge, the jury, and the world. I did not scream or use harsh, angry words. Instead, I spoke softly and honestly from the deepest, most broken part of my mother's heart. I told them in detail about Tommy's infectious laughter that could fill any room, about his big dreams of becoming an astronaut and touching the stars, about how he used to climb into our bed during stormy nights, snuggle close, and whisper in his sleepy voice, "Mommy, you're my superhero. You always keep me safe from the monsters." I described the little everyday moments that made him so special. His warm, sticky hands holding mine, his excitement when we bought ice cream, the way he carefully drew hearts on his drawings for Mommy and Daddy. Then, at the end, I looked straight into Mark's eyes across the courtroom and said with quiet, unshakable power, "Today, my sweet Tommy," Mommy kept her promise. "I became the superhero you always believed I was." Both Mark and Sarah were sentenced to life in prison without any possibility of parole. The judge, with visible emotion in his voice, called it one of the most calculated, heartbreaking, and evil betrayals of trust and family he had witnessed in his long career. After the trial, I sold our old house along with all its painful memories and moved far away to a quiet, peaceful coastal town where the ocean whispers gently instead of roaring with cruelty. Here the cliffs are softer, the waves calmer. Every single evening, no matter the weather, I walk slowly along the shoreline or sit on a bench overlooking the water, the wind gently brushing through my hair. I talk to Tommy as if he is right there beside me. I tell him how deeply Mommy loves him and always will. How I made sure that justice was served so no other mother would have to feel this pain. And how his bright memory gives me the strength and courage to keep living and breathing every single day. I even planted a small garden near my new home with his favorite colorful flowers, the ones he used to pick for me. The grief has not completely disappeared. It lives softly in my heart now, like a quiet, tender shadow that walks beside me. But it no longer destroys me or pulls me into darkness. Over time, it has gently transformed into a deep sense of peace, a clear purpose, and a quiet, enduring inner power that I never knew I possessed. If there is one profound lesson I want you to carry with you from my long and painful story, it is this. A mother's love does not simply end or fade away when her beloved child is cruelly taken from her arms. Instead, it transforms into something truly unbreakable, something fierce and powerful that can bring light and justice into even the darkest places when the world might otherwise choose to look away. Never, ever underestimate the quiet, growing strength that can rise inside a woman who has lost everything she held dear. When someone breaks her heart and her world the way Mark and Sarah broke mine, she will rise slowly, gather every shattered piece with care, and ensure that the truth eventually shines brightly for all to see. Music swells gradually with gentle hope, layered with soft, calming ocean waves, then slowly fades to a peaceful silence. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for sitting with me through this deeply painful but honest journey. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you loved and trusted with your whole being, please know that you are not alone in your suffering. Your own inner strength is waiting inside you, even during the darkest and most broken moments. Feel free to share your thoughts, your feelings, or even parts of your own story in the comments below. Your voice truly matters, and it can help others feel less alone. Protect the ones you love with everything you have inside you. Hold them close today and every single day. Never take even one precious moment with them for granted, because life can change in the blink of an eye. Until next time on this channel. Stay strong, keep believing in justice and truth, and remember that even the most broken love can still find a way to heal and change everything for the better.